Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second day of the Africa Week that is organized by the School of Continuing Education at the American University in Cairo. This is Amira Deeb, Director of the Career Development Department, and I'm so glad to announce that we have today Ms. Brenda McGuire, CEO of Worldwide Connect, and Ms. Brenda will talk about how to go global with your career. Ms. Brenda, welcome to School of Continuing Education, and welcome to Egypt.
Thank you very much.
Even virtually.
I'm very excited to be here. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody for joining today about how to take your career global. So what I'm going to do right now is put up my PowerPoint here. Let's see. Can you see it? Amira, can you see it okay?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. So today's topic is going global with your career, which is going to impact each and every one of you on this call, because we are obviously living in a very interactive, dynamic, global business environment, global marketplace. So today I'm excited to be here to talk about going global with your career. And I'm with a company, as Dr. Deeb said, called Worldwide Connect. And what Worldwide Connect does is we specialize in helping people to go global. So I get to work with professionals all the time to help them develop their global careers. And we also specialize in helping people to work across cultures. We're what's called a cross-cultural training company. So this is what I do every day. I've worked with thousands of global business professionals to help them develop their global careers. But what I wanted to tell you today is the good news for you guys is it's an amazing time, great time for women in Africa to go global with your careers. Why? Well, this is the first time in the history of the world where we have so many opportunities as women in Africa and Asia, in the US, around the world to take our careers, our business, our passions global. Why? Well, first of all, I think we're reducing the barriers or eliminating the barriers in many ways, whether it's age, race, sex, social, and economic, to be able to compete in this global marketplace. In fact, with technology, it's helped create a level playing field, and we can work with the world, work with the world just through a computer. Like, think about today. I'm sitting in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm excited to be connecting and learning and sharing with women like you in Africa on the other side of the world instantaneously. Now, we couldn't even do this 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So it's incredible. So the opportunities that your generation has right now is unbelievable in terms of taking your career global. I work with people all around the world. I'll be sharing more about what I do, but every day I might work with people in 10 different countries. Sometimes I will see their name come through, but honestly, I don't know. Is it a man? Is it a woman? What country are they from? It doesn't matter. All I want to know is, do they do a good job? What are their skills? Are they delivering a good product or service? Are they reliable? So again, I think it's an amazing time in this time to go global with your careers for many of those reasons. You're able to network with the world, share, communicate, connect on a global scale like never before. And because of that, you now have unprecedented opportunities to go global with your career. What can you do? Well, there's so many things. These are just a few. You can launch an international business. You can work virtually with the world. You can move to another country, be a freelancer contractor with international companies. I do that. I hire people all around the world. I don't care what country they're from. I don't care what culture. Again, are they delivering a good product or service? You can work with a global company, obviously. You get to connect with other cultures. You can volunteer or support a global cause. Use the world as your classroom. You can share your voice with the world. You can travel to your dream destination. If you really think about it, this is pretty amazing. Even my mom's generation, she couldn't just get on a plane and be on the other side of the world, literally in the matter of a day or hours. So the things that we have as women is just amazing to be able to travel and live and work around the world. You can also pursue what you're passionate about, and you can live an international lifestyle. So we have a saying in the US, it's the world is your oyster. What does that mean? Well, the world is open. The world is open to you. You can do what you want in this world, world of opportunities. And I think it's really important that we remember we're living in a small world. Sometimes we think of the world as this big, scary place. You turn on the TV and you see all these things going on, and then you're like, but this is not my experience. I literally have been to over 85 countries. I've lived in 6 countries. And what I know to be true is that we're living in a small world and a very kind-hearted world in many ways. It's not this big, scary place. Like I even think about Dr. LD, I'm from the US, but I met her in a second continent in England in March. And now I'm connecting in a third continent, Africa, just by one connection. So I think that's really, really exciting and really cool. And just to remember, we're living a small world. And I started traveling. I started working with the world even before the internet and all this smartphones. We didn't even have any of that. And I remember one time about 20 some years ago, I met some Africans when I was traveling in Europe. And then I ran into them in another country like 2 months later. So again, it just shows we are living in a very small, interconnected world. So because we're living in this small world, what I'm going to encourage each and every one of you to do is that you can make a big impact in this small world, whether it's your business goals, your dreams, whatever, you can make a big impact. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is to supersize your career goals. So, many of you say, well, Brenda, I want to be in finance. Well, consider yourself a global business financial professional. Brenda, I want to be in agriculture. Well, what about international agriculture? So whatever you want to do, supersize your career goals. You can do that now. So I thought it might be helpful for you to understand my own career journey. I did not grow up in a big city. I did not grow up with anybody even traveled. I did not grow up in a world where, I had all kinds of advantages about, international or travel or any of that. In fact, the picture of the cornfield, that was my world. That's where I grew up. I grew up in the country on a gravel road. My nearest town was 1,000 people. Now, keep in mind, again, there was no internet. This was back in the 1980s. 1970s and 80s, and I dreamed of traveling the world. And everybody said, Brenda, you're crazy. You're very, very crazy. But I don't know. I really had this instinct, or I really wanted to see this amazing world. But I just didn't even know what was out there. I didn't even know I could do it. My parents didn't have passports. I didn't even know anybody who was international. In fact, the only person I knew, I guess I did know one person. She was an exchange student from Norway, but that's it. And then I went to university in Iowa. So Iowa, there's a picture, a circle there that shows where Iowa is. So when you think of the United States, many people think of Washington, D.C. or New York or California, but I live in the middle of Iowa, and we are very agricultural based. We're community based. We're considered to be in the heartland. We are in the Midwest, if you will. But many people in Iowa don't even really realize how international we are. My brother works at John Deere that makes tractors that go around the world. Our food supply is going around the world, but sometimes we forget we are international. So what we do every day touches the world, and vice versa. In Africa, what you do every day touches the world. We are all globally connected. But again, that's the world I grew up in. And then I went to university, and I did a study abroad program that changed my life. It was called Semester at Sea, and you live on a ship for a semester, and you use the world as your classroom. And we would sail around the world for a semester, and then we would take classes while we were at sea. But when we were in ports of call, then we would do field trips. And interestingly, here I am, 21 years old. You can see a picture of me in Egypt. That was one of the very first countries. So I went from the cornfields to the desert, and I got to see your beautiful country of Egypt. And that's the first time I'd ever been in Africa. It was amazing. And it was just very, very eye-opening. The people were so kind-hearted. And my parents didn't have passports. They didn't even travel. They didn't even know. But when I started traveling, they started traveling. And one of the very first countries they went to was Egypt. And that was one one of their favorite countries, you ask them to this day, what would, you're to visit. Anyway, so I used the world as my classroom. I moved to Japan for 2 years teaching Japanese. And then I lived in Europe for a few years. I also lived in Australia twice. And in fact, did my master's degree in Australia and international communication there. But I would immerse myself in cultures when I was in my 20s and 30s. I immersed myself. I learned some new languages. I traveled, I worked, I volunteered. I did all of these things, and I did it very, very cheaply, because remember, my parents didn't give me any money and I had to do it by myself, pretty much do all of this. So I'm going to talk about funding some of these things too a little bit later. So my career now, I'm excited to say, has taken me to 85 countries on 6 continents. So pictures of me in Nepal. And then right before the world shut down with COVID, I was actually in Dubai at Canadian University with these women talking about a very similar topic. And many women around the world are very interested. Hey, how can I take my career global? And there's just some pictures around the world. And you'll see at the bottom, there's a picture of me and Dr. Amira El-Deeb. We took a picture together at the House of Lords in Parliament in London just in March. So it's exciting. Here's this girl from Des Moines, Iowa in the cornfields, and I go to London and I meet Dr. El-Deeb, and then here I am today and I'm talking about Africa. So again, it just shows what a small world it is. So what do I do? Well, my business is helping others to live, work, and travel the world. And I do this through 2 international companies. Now, keep in mind, I started these companies in my dining room table. These are international companies. I don't live in a big city like New York City. I don't live in a big city. I actually live in Des Moines, Iowa, where, I started these companies basically on my kitchen table, my dining room table, with a laptop. So if I can do that, you can do that too. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Again, that shows the reducing the barriers for women anywhere in the world. Anyway, one of my company, Worldwide Connect, what we specialize in is, and as I mentioned earlier, is global workforce leadership development. And then we do something special called cross-cultural training. So what we're doing is we train people to work across cultures. I have about 150 trainers in 40 countries. So for example, yesterday I got a request from a client saying, hey, Brenda, we've got somebody moving from Vietnam to the UK. So we're training the Vietnamese on how to do business and understand culture in the United Kingdom, where they're going to be working for 2 years on a project. So that's what we do all day. We mainly work with corporations, but we also work with nonprofits. For example, there was a nonprofit that reached out to me about training some of their leaders in Togo in Africa. So, and my other company is called Global Gals, and that's where my heart and passion come into, because I love to teach women to live, work, and travel the world. And I'm excited to say I've done a lot of work with Africa, of all places. And, about 5 years ago, I held a women's retreat in Namibia. I've spoken in South Africa. I've helped expats move to and from Africa. Many, many things. Here's a picture, and Dr. El-Deeb was with us. And that was a group from Nigeria. So I got to network, and there were many, many amazing women from Africa at the Wind Trade Global Summit in London that we attended, and just got to hear some very inspiring stories from many amazing African women. And then, I've worked with Africa for a long time, but it's interesting. One of my dearest friends in Iowa is actually from Africa, from Nigeria. And I was speaking with him yesterday, and I said, hey, I'm going to be presenting here today. And, what kind of things should I talk about? Well, the other day when I called him, he lives around the corner from me, and we go to the same coffee shop. And so he said, oh, I said, is this a good time? And he goes, oh, well, I'm waiting for some appointments. And I thought he was in the coffee shop. So I walked around the corner, and he said, no, Brenda, I'm in Africa right now. I'm in Nigeria. So it was kind of funny, because I was like, oh, he sounded just like he was just around the corner, and I thought he was around the corner. But anyway, he's someone, as an example, from Nigeria, and he lives in both worlds. He lives in the US part-time and in Nigeria part-time. And so he worked for a financial services company, a bank here. And then he's also doing his PhD in diversity and inclusion and focusing his thesis on women leaders, interestingly. He's in politics. He started an orphanage there. His name's Eric Idahan, by the way. And then it's really cool because we partnered together. So when he's back in Iowa, then we partnered together on doing training together, on coaching. He and I are involved with a local organization called Cultural that teaches cultures in the classroom. So he goes into Des Moines, Iowa, into our school system. He's taught probably thousands of children about Africa and Nigeria. So I guess what I'm saying is I've had this long history with Africa, so I'm excited to be here today. Now, I'm interested, I've shared some of my global or international experiences, but I'm more interested in where in the world would you like to travel? So let's say you could pick any country and you could go anywhere. Money, time is not an issue. Where in the world would you like to go? So could you please put in the chat where in the world that you would like to go and pick a country. And also, Amira, I'm not able to see the chat right now. So if you can share maybe some of the destinations people would like to go. So yeah, just put in the chat what country you would like to visit. Let's see. Germany. Okay, I can see it now. Germany, America, Japan. Okay, great. We've got some different ones there. Greece, Italy, France. Those are all great ones. So great.
And we have Switzerland.
And Switzerland and Italy. That's great. I love Switzerland. I actually lived in Switzerland, or yes, I lived in Switzerland, lived in Japan, just was in Italy in March. All those places are great. So, well, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so, I was going to give you a whole world map, and you already know where you want to go. So, so what I want to share with you, based on all my experience of, traveling, living around the world, but also working with thousands of people in this field. These are the 7 keys to success that I think are going to help African women to go global with your career. Number 1, and I'm going to go into detail with each of these, but number 1, open your mind, open your world. Number 2, explore a world of opportunities. Number 3, gain international experience and expertise. Number 4, develop your global skills. Number 5, leverage technology. Number 6, be proactive. And number 7, believe in yourself. So let's look at the first one, open your mind and open your world. This is critical. This is important. You have to be able to have an open mind in order to open your world. And some people, I've met so many business people who are so closed-minded, and it's really sad. Their company might be sending them to go live, let's say, in Germany for 2 or 3 years. And the company offers them cross-cultural training, which is what my company does, but then they decline it, which doesn't make sense to me. I'm like, don't you want to know the country you're moving to, the culture, the traditions, the way of life? So, but they're not open-minded. They don't want to know. They don't want to learn. So this is a critical piece to taking your career. Now, what you need to do is also ask yourself some questions. So shifting that worldview, opening the world. So just a few questions. Where in the world can I work? How can I leverage technology? What new ways can I network with the world or connect with other cultures? What passions can I pursue globally? How can I expand my business or career around the world? And how do I see the world? Is it scary versus kind-hearted, big versus small? And do I have a global mindset? Now you're probably saying, well, Brenda, what is a global mindset? Well, according to research conducted by Harvard Business Review, a global mindset is the ability to adjust to different environments and cultures internationally. Now, how do I develop a global mindset? Well, I'm going to be going through today several practical tips and things that you can do to develop it. So I'm not going to go into that answer right now because it will be coming in the presentation. However, I do have a book called Professional Performance 360 Success. And actually, I address that very topic of how to develop a global mindset. So you can download the chapter for free. It's called Small World, Big Success on my website, brendamcguire.com, if you're interested in reading that. Number two, it's important to explore a world of opportunities. What is possible? So if you would have told me as that 12-year-old, 14-year-old growing up in the cornfields of Iowa that one day I would become an interculturalist or a cross-cultural specialist, and I would live and work around the world, and one day I would be addressing American University in Cairo's, Africa Week, I wouldn't even have believed you. It wasn't even anything that I could dream. It wasn't even possible in my world. So I think the most important thing is you got to do research of what is even possible. Sometimes we limit ourselves. We say, I want to do this or do this or do this. Recently, even here in the US, I spoke at my niece's high school class about careers. And I said to them, there's so many jobs or careers that haven't even been created yet, or maybe you don't even know exist. And, sometimes we say, oh, I want to be a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer or whatever it is. But really, there's so many jobs. Like, did you know you could become an interculturalist? Well, those are things nobody taught me. So I think the important thing is for you to do your research. And by the way, with AI, that's going to change the game even more, or technology. So there's going to be jobs again. So it's important that you do explore some possibilities. You can't dream it if you don't even know it exists. So here's a world of possibilities. You could become an international business professional. You could become a global leader, whatever your industry field, whether you're in finance or agriculture or engineering or whatever it is. You could work for a global nonprofit organization. You could be an independent contract freelancer, a journalist, a writer, a social media project worker, a web designer. You could do all of these different things with the world. In fact, I hire people every day who are independent contractors. Some of my trainers or my coaches, or I might have them do writing social media or whatever. And I don't really care where they are in the world. I really don't care. They could be in Egypt, they could be wherever. Virtual assistant or project coordinator. So for example, I had a virtual assistant in the Philippines, and it worked great because while I was sleeping, she would do a lot of my work. And by the time I woke up, guess what? It was done. and vice versa. So again, I think the world is being more open-minded by getting talent and hiring people in different parts of the world. Obviously become a teacher or professor, teach students online or teach abroad. I taught in 3 different countries, and that was an amazing experience. But you can do it online too. Foreign affairs, government leader, diplomat. That was a path I wanted to do initially. In fact, I lived in Washington, D.C. for a while and worked at the U.S. consulate. But now I'm not doing that. I'm an international speaker, author, and trainer. Global business owner and entrepreneur. You could work with the world from Africa. What's exciting is now you don't even have to move. You don't have to travel. You don't have to go anywhere. You could just literally work from Africa with the world. Now, that said, I know some of you guys might want to immigrate or travel or want to move to another country. Well, you could do that too. But I'm just saying, I think with technology, especially since COVID and Zoom, it's changed, right? Where now, before we would go, when we would do a training program, we would go on site in the company. But now the people are saying, no, Brenda, let's just do it by Zoom. Let's do 2 hours. I don't want to do a full day. So things are changing, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be even more possibilities, because the world's been, in a sense, trained by using all this technology. And, as a global entrepreneur, business owner, you as women can be very, very powerful. You could own a business that, does some great things around this world and touches many lives. And you could, be selling things or doing things. Again, technology creates that level playing field. Number 3.